and welcome to this first video on how to improve your memory. Now, really all the techniques for memory improvement go back to three fundamental basic concepts which are 2,000 to 3,000 years old. Now, these three concepts are all based on the way that our brains evolved to work, that our memories naturally work. Okay, the first memory principle is imagination. We tend to find it very easy to remember things that really spark our imagination. In particular, anything that's unusual or bizarre. Another thing is people. We tend to be able to recall in our imagination other people particularly easily. We can get a rough idea of what they look like, what their personalities are like, and that sort of thing. Also, in particular, people performing actions, we find it very easy to remember images of somebody doing something. And lastly, things that rhyme, we tend to find it very easy to remember songs, and if you have ever tried to memorize a phone number or a long piece of text like a poem, you find it much easier if you inject some kind of rhythm or rhyme to it. Okay, so that was the first major principle, imagination. Now, the second major principle is location. We tend to find it very easy to remember locations that we are very familiar with. And this kind of taps into our imagination because we reconstruct the locations in our imagination. So, for example, you probably find it very easy to remember the layout of your house, a route that you're very familiar with, like a route to work, and you probably even can remember the layout of your old school. In fact, most people can probably recall the corridors and the different classrooms and the entrances and the exits, and then they can remember a lot of the things that they were taught in school. So if you have a location that you're particularly familiar with, it becomes very easy to remember it. And you'll often hear this principle also called the method of loci, loci meaning locations. Okay, so that was our second principle. The third principle is structure. Now, this is kind of also similar to locations because locations have a particular structure to them, a particular order that rooms are joined to each other in a house, for example. So a location would be a good example of a structure. But another example is called chunking. Chunking is where, for instance, if you have a very long number to remember, if you break it down into groups, so for example groups of 3 numbers, it starts to become a lot easier. So if you can group things together, particularly if you can group things together according to meaning, so if you can create links between things that mean similar things, so to create some kind of structure to the information that you're trying to remember, then that will be far better. So all these three principles can be joined together to create a memory system. So, for example, if you use your imagination to remember your house, and if you have a list of things that you need to memorize, you can, in your imagination, place those things in the various rooms of your house, and it helps to be particularly imaginative, so make these images as unusual and as bizarre as possible, have them involving people performing actions, and try to make the images as bizarre and as emotionally charged as possible, because emotions are another way of tapping into this feature of our imagination, because we were much more likely to remember things which are very emotionally charged, because they're more likely to have meaning to us. Then once you've got all these items placed in each room of your house, you can walk back through the rooms in your imagination and very easily recall each of the items that you tried to remember. Now, if you've ever seen a memory master, somebody with a really highly trained memory, giving a demonstration on TV, you might have seen them remember a list of things and recall the list, but then recall the list backwards, and people find that very impressive. But when you realize that they're using this technique of locations and walking through a route of a location, then you can start to see that it's not really that hard to walk the other. So it's no more difficult to walk backwards through your route than it is to walk forwards. So it's that kind of demonstration is actually a lot more impressive than it is difficult. Okay, so another kind of structure that you can tap into, that you'll already have, that you'll definitely have in mind, is the order of numbers from 1 to 10. We all know, we can all count, I hope, from 1 to 10. There are two different ways that you can take advantage of this to easily remember 10 items. First of all, you can turn each number from 1 to 10 into an object that the number looks like. So, for example, here we have one system. 1 might look like a pen, 2 like a swan, so that the top bit, the top curve, is the head and the neck of the swan. 3 might look like a bird to you, perhaps a bird flying sideways. 4 might look like a sailing boat, or to me it often looks like a pair of legs with one foot off the ground. 5 to me looks like a pregnant woman, so I imagine the curve on the numeral 5 to be the stomach of a pregnant woman. 6 a tadpole, or perhaps a monocle, an old-fashioned eyepiece. 7 a boomerang. 8 a snowman. 9 is a trickier one, but it might look like a flag if most people write the number 9 without that little curve at the bottom. So you might have the straight line down might be the flagpole, and then the curve could represent the flag. And 10 a bat and ball. So what this system gives you is 10 images to associate with the 10 things that you're trying to remember. Use your powers of imagination to make strong links between each of these 10 images and the things you're trying to remember, and then you can very easily go from 1 to 10 or 10 back to 1 and recall all of the 10 items. And don't feel that you have to use these particular images. You can pick images that are more personal to you. Just run through the 10 and just test yourself in which of the images you most quickly associate with each number, and if there are any ones that you're struggling with, then just replace them with an image that you personally find easier to remember.